Ladies and gentlemen, after weeks and months of speculation as to the release date, I'm happy to announce that yesterday, Saturday, February 17th, 2024, The Long Journey Home, A Retreat from Avdiivka, was finally released. People weren't even sure when it was going to come out. There was speculation it was maybe Thursday, Friday, but it came out Saturday when Syrskyi announced it and released it to the world. And we're going to take a look at the launch party because there was a big celebration planned. Now, unfortunately, the movie got leaked online by Russian bots a couple days in advance, and most of the people who were going to see it have already seen it. So it's looking like this is going to be another money loser. However, the MIC, the production company behind the UCU, is has taken made a lot of money off of it, plus 10% for the big guy, the president of the MIC, Joe Brandon. He got 10% of the money, so it's still going to be profitable. The people who needed to get paid off got paid off. Okay, so being serious now that we've gotten that little sketch out of the way. So Avdiivka has completely fallen. Most of the Ukrainians are either dead, surrendered, or trapped in basements. In particular, I think the Azov guys, the last I heard, some of them were hiding in basements, determined to basically fight to the end, which might be smart because I feel like if there's any people from the Donbass in the Russian forces, they will probably just shoot them and not take them prisoner, as they were kind of they were the guys responsible for playing Minecraft in that section of Ukraine, shall we say. Now, the actual breakdown started Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think by Thursday, it was complete chaos. Everybody was fleeing. Command had completely broken down. I forget if it was Monday or Tuesday. Syrskyi had still denying that they were going to withdraw, and he sent the Azov guys and a bunch of other strategic reserves in to try to stabilize the situation. And it wasn't until yesterday that Syrskyi announced the withdrawal. Now, the thing to keep in mind about this is just I don't know if cope is the right term. This is just optics because the Ukrainian army had already shattered and was already running away. And there was absolutely no structural order. So they waited 2 days of that, and then Syrskyi's like, "Yeah, I'm going to announce retreat." That was the plan the whole time. Yeah, it's time for everybody to retreat. They're already retreating. They're following my orders really closely. So like after everybody just started running away because they saw that the situation was a complete and total disaster, he just like afterwards tried to pretend that the whole thing was part of the plan. Trust the plan. Now, Zelensky left the country when the final phase of this started. He didn't want to be there. That's part of the reason why this thing is such a disaster. One would think that when what could be the climatic battle of the war is reaching a chaotic conclusion, that the president of the country should probably be there issuing orders, but he didn't want to do that. He had to go to Munich Security Conference. Now, to my knowledge, he did not go to this party, and I will not slander him by saying that. I will, however, say something I was saying on Twitter yesterday. Throughout this war, I don't think I have ever really said that I hate Zelensky or that I think he's an evil man, or really, I've said that he's incompetent and prideful and stubborn, but I've kind of just changed my opinion after this whole thing, and now I actively hate him because this whole thing was avoidable. It's been clear for weeks now. I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Zaluzhny, or maybe even a month ago, Zaluzhny said Avdiivka is going to fall relatively soon. Of course, Zaluzhny didn't pull the troops out. He bitched and complained that Zelensky wouldn't let him. But I find Zaluzhny is kind of a drama queen. And whenever like something bad happened, he would just blame Zelensky. He could have resigned. He could have gone to the public. He could have done any number of other things. But generally speaking, he just chose to snipe from behind in the media and undermine his boss whenever a disaster happened and pretend that he had no role in it because he was just the commander of the army. He wasn't the president of Ukraine. So it's been known for a while that this is going to happen. And I've been watching like lots of people talk about this for the last 2 weeks, that the Russians have been gradually more and more closing the pincers. And people have been saying like it's time to get out. It's already going to be like a couple weeks ago. It was already going to be rough. The Russians already had fire control, but most of them could probably have gotten out. They could have tried to order like an organized retreat. You could have brought in Azov and some of the other mechanized battalions to act as a rear guard. What a rear guard, generally speaking, is, for those of you not super familiar with military matters, is the rear guard tries to hold the enemy while the rest of the army retreats. Sometimes they're sacrificial. A lot of the time, though, I think they tend to be lighter hit and run forces. I think the ideal is that they're fast enough that they can hold the enemy up a bit and then escape. And given that they're generally a smaller portion of the army, that's generally likely. So they could have sent them in like 2 weeks ago when the Russians had nowhere near as much firepower, uh, and just used them as a way to screen the retreating Ukrainians. But Zelensky said, no, we can't do that. We can't hold them out because I'm going to go to this conference. And if Avdiivka falls before this conference, it's going to look bad to my Western sponsors. So I'm just going to leave the guys in there to die. And I don't think at any point, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if Zelensky ever even issued an order withdrawal to when I'm recording this video. Syrskyi did, but I don't think Zelensky ever did. He just seems to basically have no care whatsoever for his men's lives. Like, this battle was lost. The Ukrainian army was completely shattered there. They weren't putting up organized resistance. They were getting hit by like I think it was 500 like heavy bombs in the course of 1 week. And he just left the country and went completely AFK and just said, Syrskyi, you're in charge. You only became commander in chief like 3 days ago, but this is all on you, man. This is all on you to take it home to win in the clutch. And don't get me wrong, Syrskyi is incompetent, but this isn't really his entirely his fault because he literally just became like commander like a week or two ago, and almost all of this happened under Zelensky's watch. So while he is a butcher and he is someone who is a reputation for throwing his men into battle with no concern for their lives, uh, we can't entirely blame him for this whole debacle. The blame for that, I think, largely rests with Zelensky and Zelensky. So the thing that really irritates me, other than the fact that like they could have withdrawn them, most of them could have gotten out, and you wouldn't have these just horrific scenes of just Ukrainians fleeing and getting gunned down, and it's just a slaughter. And sometimes in war you have to make sacrifices. I'm not saying it. You can't win a war without some people dying. If you've seen the movie, I think it's Darkest Hour. There's a part where Churchill orders the Calais garrison to attack the Germans, um, and it's a suicidal attack. There's absolutely no way that they're going to be able to beat them, and they get wiped out. But it delays the Germans by like 48 hours, and they're able to get more people out of Dunkirk. So he made the decision to sacrifice like 1,200 people, which probably helped like over 100,000 more people escape the beaches. So that is a sacrifice, and that was a decision that he had to make, but that had a purpose to it. Sometimes the rear guard has to be sacrificed for the rest of the army to get away, and that's sad and that's tragic, but that's war. But basically, just telling them to stay there and die when they aren't even capable of offering any sort of resistance it's just awful. Especially because it's your own pride, especially him just leaving the country, not issuing any orders. As I was saying, like on Friday, if Zelensky had any soul, if he had any like decency as a human, what he would have done is just ordered his forces that are trapped in Avdiivka to just surrender. Just said, "You guys have done your duty. We just surrender. There's no point in you dying for no reason." But that wasn't what happened. There was like just nothing. They pretended they were going to send in reinforcements. and then the reinforcements got destroyed. And I still don't think they've issued an order for them to surrender. It's like, well, the optics of that would look really bad, Argent, that they would that Zelensky's telling his men to surrender. It would be him losing, or be him admitting defeat. It's like, past a certain point, like, once again, these are your boys. Some of these guys have been here for like 2 years since the start of the invasion, and they've been fighting constantly, and they've got very little support from the Ukrainian command. They've been getting very few resources, and they've been under constant bombardment, and they've just been getting like they've been facing horrific conditions. It's been described as hell. The Azov guys, a lot of them wouldn't even go in. They like, and these are like neo Nazis. These are like the most fanatical people in the Ukrainian army. And when they ordered them to go into Avdiivka, they just told them to fuck off because they wouldn't even do it. It was so bad. Um, but no, Zelensky wanted to say that this was a W, that they were winning the battle until this was over. However, it collapsed in the middle of the battle. So I just kind of hate Zelensky now. Now you can say correctly that you should blame the Russians because the Russians are the people who killed them, and they're the ones who are gunning the fleeing people down, and they're the ones who started this war by invading Ukraine. And we can go back and forth as to what the causes are, but I mean, the Russians are the guys who are firing the bullets. That being said, though, like, the Russians are Ukraine's enemy in this war. They're very upfront with what they're trying to do. They're trying to kill the people they see as their enemies. They were laying siege to Avdiivka. It was made pretty clear that they were going to kill anybody they got a chance to do. They are just basically fulfilling their stated role in this conflict. Them attacking the city and taking it is not them snaking. It's a war, and they're the other side. The bigger issue is just that Zelensky is their commander in chief. He's the head of Ukraine. He's the one who's supposed to be looking out for them. He's the guy who's supposed to have their back. I think he went there like a couple weeks ago, and stuff like that. And he just completely left them out to die for no reason whatsoever. Once again, sacrifice is sometimes necessary in war. I fully understand that. But I think as a leader, you have a duty to not sacrifice your men unless you really need to, unless there is a definitive reason for it, and to respect the sacrifice they made. And the Ukrainian soldiers in Avdiivka they did more than I think anyone could expect them to do against impossible odds. And the fact that Zelensky just left them there to die, and didn't try to pull them out, and didn't try to like let them tell them to surrender. I just think he's a really shitty person. I think that was a really shitty thing to do. Now we have this crowd. This is not a parody. This is from a week. This is from yesterday. The free world stands together. So Build sponsored Freedom Night in Munich. And we got all these guys here, and they were eating burgers and lobster. Let me see if they have a picture of the burgers and lobster. No, they don't, but they had burgers and lobster. So we got all these celebrities here, and they were all getting drunk and hanging out, and stuff like this at this fancy bar. While the remaining Ukrainians were just getting slaughtered as they were desperately trying to run away on foot and getting machine gunned down by the Russians. They're showing solidarity here. They're getting wasted at some fucking random bar. It actually is really disgusting. And Zelensky even left the country in the middle of this. Apparently, the unofficial motto was "Let's drink against Putin." We're gonna beat Putin by getting completely wasted and eating lobster and hamburgers. The free world stands together. We have Build boss Marion Horn with Stoltenberg, the head of NATO. Most important personalities from politics, defense, and business came together in the Burger and Lobster Bank restaurant and discussed the most pressing questions of our time in a confidential atmosphere. Above all, how can we stand up to uh, Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin even more resolutely in the face of aggression against Ukraine and the death of that random dude. So that is that is how they're going to do it. Is they're going to go and get wasted while probably the biggest disaster, the biggest single day, like the worst. Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. Arguably the bloodiest couple of days for the Ukrainian army, the most demoralizing. I've heard that Ukrainian soldiers are calling for coups now. I don't know how widespread this is, but people are really angry. The army is furious, the people are furious. Um and how they're going to deal with it, how they're going to deal with the situation is they're going to go to the Lobster and Burger bar. We've got Sweden's civil protection minister. That's not Orwellian at all. We got the Czech president. We got we got this F slur, Alejandro Maracas. Why is he there? Why the fuck is he at the Munich Security Conference? Shouldn't he be in like dealing with the border or something? He just showed up to tell stories about his Holocaust survivor. Freedom Night. We got all these other people from Germany. We got the mayor of Kiev, and his brother, the world boxing, the Klitschko's were there. Let's see, what else do we have? The head of the German intelligence service. The top CEO. We had a bunch of CEOs. We had John Kerry, who was there. I mean, it's you got the whole team there. Got all these guys. These pictures are, I don't know, they look really distorted. I don't even know. U.S. military attaché in Germany. We got Alexander Karp. We got all of these dudes here, and they just got wasted and ate lobster and burgers while the soldiers in Avdiivka just got gunned down and brutally killed. And that's how they're going to stand up to Putin. That's how the free world stands together. Is this? And I mean, how do you even parody this? Like, the fact that they would do this, they would take these pictures and they would put them up on their website and like brag about it and say like, oh, this is awesome that we all got drunk and we pulled this shit. um I don't know, that's just the way it is. I think it shows how much they care about Ukraine and the lives of Ukrainian soldiers and what this whole war is really about. So good job, EU. Pray for the Ukrainian soldiers and that those still trapped in Avdiivka are able to surrender, and that for them this hellish war is going to be over, because these guys and their president and their general staff most certainly do not have their backs.